All right, so as we move into this Easter season, we made a commitment to live our very best life. Is that true? So how are you doing with that one? Is change happening? Are things moving in your life? I am living my best life. Together? I am living my best life. One more time like we mean it. I am living my best life. Now, we began the first week by talking about the difference between the impossible and the possible. And I made a claim that I believe to live our very best life, occasionally we have to do that which seems impossible. That we actually need it for our spiritual development. We actually need to take on those things that feel impossible on a regular basis to get us out of the mindset that we know how life works. Then last week we talked about the difference between beliefs and commitment, and how beliefs work in the realm of possible, and you have to believe for it to be possible. But when we're dealing with the realm of the impossible, actually commitment is the superpower of our soul. That our soul can make a commitment to something that feels impossible, and in the act of making a commitment, doors begin to open and possibilities begin to show up. And today I want to talk about obstacles. Because you think, right, if you're going to commit to something impossible in your life, and if you're going to put God first, there should be no obstacles. How many of you have ever been surprised by an obstacle in your life? Right? Anybody just been really surprised, like, oh no, this wasn't supposed to go like this. It wasn't supposed to look like this. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. This is not supposed to be the way my life works. I am a spiritual person. I meditate. And I should not have problems. So get up out of God. Holy Spirit, what's going on here? And what I want you to see is that every great spiritual teacher had obstacles. Even mediocre spiritual teachers have obstacles. Because obstacles are the way that we perfect our soul and come to truly know and believe in the power of God within us. It is in obstacles that we learn to rise up and be greater than we've ever been before. How many of you can think of at least one obstacle or challenge or difficulty, problem that you might be facing in your life today? Anybody got one? And if you don't have one, just look at your neighbor and say, can I borrow one of yours for a little bit? Right? And what I want you to see is that as we know the power of God within us, obstacles are the way that we perfect our soul. It actually perfects us to overcome. God in me is greater than this obstacle. Together? God in me is greater than this obstacle. I want you to really feel that. Because how many times has an obstacle or a problem or a challenge showed up in your life and it's like, uh-oh, mayday, mayday, who do I call? But every obstacle, every challenge is here so that your soul learns the full power of God within you. And I can't move through this series and talk about doing the impossible without also preparing you to be greater than you've ever been before. And the obstacles and the challenges are the thing that actually perfect you, that actually move you to a higher level. They do not come to take you out. They come to bless you and actually demonstrate a higher level of God in your life. Reading from 1 James, beginning with verse 2. Count it all joy, my brethren, when you meet various trials. Right? Let me just read that again. Count it all joy, my brethren, when you meet various trials, for you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. It produces confidence. And let that steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing. See, without obstacles, without challenges, without problems, we move through life, but we are not really perfecting who we are as a child of God. But in the problems and the obstacles and the challenges, we actually discover that God in us is greater than anything in the world. And that's why you came. You didn't come into this world for 70, 80, 90, 100 years of just hanging out. I would take one of those once. But that's not why you came. You came into this physical manifestation to perfect your soul and know the full power of God in you. That God in you is greater than anything in the world. Count it all joy, my brethren, when you face various obstacles, various trials, various challenges, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing. Nothing. I want you to see the challenges maybe that are before you. And today I want to give you 5 tools that I believe that are absolutely need to be in your spiritual toolbox. And these 5 tools are what allows us to overcome literally any challenge. And this week, I don't expect you to practice all 5 of them, but I do expect you to take one of those tools that I'm offering. Practice it, try it, see if it works for you. And as we practice these 5 spiritual tools, we actually perfect ourselves. And over again, I could do a whole month on just these 5 teachings. Because I believe that these 5 teachings are fundamentally important as spiritual beings. That we have the spiritual tools that we need to overcome the difficulties and the challenges and problems so that we know that we are greater than that. See, I don't want any of us to pass with thinking that life was bigger than we were. I want each one of you on your last day to look at your life and think, I overcame and I perfected my soul. That I am more than the way that I showed up. I actually became a greater expression of God. So what are these 5 tools that I'm talking about today? The first one, and this is going to be a surprise to all of you, is prayer. What a concept, Richard. Prayer. Okay, so what do you mean? Right? How many of you have heard more than one way to pray? Right? How many of you have been practicing a prayer, learning prayer, and understanding prayer? Well, I think the great thesis of prayer is The Golden Key by Emmett Fox. How many of you have read The Golden Key by Emmett Fox? It is 6 pages long. 6 pages long. And I believe that in that 6 pages, he encapsulates our relationship in prayer. And here's what he says. I'm just going to read a paragraph. It's a long paragraph, but it's just one paragraph. Prayer will enable you sooner or later to get yourself and anyone else out of any difficulty on the face of the earth. Is that a big statement? That is a huge statement. Prayer will enable you sooner or later to get yourself or anyone else out of any difficulty on the face of the earth. Now, you could not have a bigger promise. I mean, he's promising everything. It is the golden key to harmony and happiness. For those who have no acquaintance with the mightiest power in existence, this may appear to be a rash claim, but it needs only a fair trial to prove that without a shadow of doubt, it is a just one. You need not take no one's word for it, and you should not. Simply try it yourself and see. God is omnipotent, and man is in his image and likeness, and has dominion over all things. Man has dominion over all things. Let's say that together. Man has dominion over all things. And man has dominion over all things. This is the inspired teaching and is intended to be taken literally at face value. Man means every man and every woman. And so the ability to draw on this power is not a super power relegated to mystics and saints that is often supposed, or even highly trained practitioners Whoever you are and wherever you may be, the golden key to harmonizing is in your hand right now. This is because the scientific prayer is that God works, not you. And so practical limitations or weaknesses are no account in this process. You are only the channel through which the divine action takes place, and your treatment will really be just getting yourself out of the way. Beginners often get startling results at their first attempt in trying, for it is absolutely essential that you have an open mind and sufficient faith just to try the experiment. Apart from that, you may hold any views or none at all. All of your actions and methods of working all fundamental things are simply just that. All you have to do is stop thinking about the difficulty. Whatever it is, think about God instead. This is the complete rule. If you would only do this, the trouble, whatever it is, will presently disappear. It makes no difference what kind of trouble it is. It may be a big thing or a little thing. It may be a health, financial, or a lawsuit, a quarrel, an accident, anything else conceivable. But whatever it is, just stop thinking about it and think about God instead. That is all you have to do. Go home. Right? How many of you have ever spent a worried night thinking about your problems? How many of you have ever spent more than one night worried about your problems? Now, would he say that that's a productive activity? No. He would say that if you spent one night thinking about God instead of your problems, that you would have more of an impact on your life and your problems and your challenges than spending week after week after week after worrying about your problems. My mother-in-law. When I came into her life, she had a teenage son. Need I say more? And her husband one time said, as she was worried because he was not home on time, said, "Why don't you go up to bed and I'll worry down here for you." And she just got this big smile on her face that he was actually going to worry for her. And then she realized, you're not going to worry. You're just going to fall asleep in the chair and wait for him to get home. If somebody's going to worry, I'm going to have to stay up and worry properly for him. And I want us to see that many of us were taught to worry as an activity and even a spiritual activity. And what if today the only thing you have to do is move the focus of your thinking off the problem and onto God, however you conceive God, however you understand God. And that we actually learn to manage our mind in a new way when we can move off of the problem and onto God. And we actually put the energy into God, not our problems. Because worry is energy. Do you want the energy to go into the problem, or do you want it to go into God, the solution? So the number one tool, the tool that changes everything, the quickest and the most powerful way, is stop focusing on the problem. Now, what will we talk about? Really? How many conversations are you having with your talking to everyone around you about the problem, hoping that they have a solution to whatever difficulty you're in? And what if instead of doing that, you had to come up with 3 things that you were profoundly grateful for? Number 1, prayer. 2, Newton's third law. Now, what some of you don't know yet is I am kind of a science geek. And I love science. And I think Newton's third law is a spiritual tool. How many of you know what Newton's third law is? Anybody? Newton's third law of motion, we have one in the back. Okay, well, let me describe it to you. Newton had 3 laws of motion. The first one was an object in motion wants to, an object at rest wants to. Right, that was 1. 2, acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the net force acted upon that object, inversely proportional to its mass. So force equals mass times acceleration. We all know that, right? If you want your car to go faster, you have to put your foot on the accelerator, right? And as we do that, the mass of our car, us in it, actually it moves faster. But the third law of Newton's law of motion says this. For every action, you know where I'm going? There's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, why is this a spiritual tool? How many of you have ever begin to affirm or want to move in a new direction, and the moment you begin to move in a new direction, it feels like every obstacle is placed in front of you? Has everybody had that experience? So you're affirming, I am prosperous, and you go to the mailbox, and then there's this little love note from the IRS. Right? And so what happens is the moment we begin to move in a new direction, any part of our life that is not aligned with that direction comes up to be healed. And sometimes it's called, in spiritual circles, sometimes it's called first force, second force, and third force. So what's first force? First force is your desire to move in a new direction. Now what's second force? Second force is everything in your life that's not aligned with that. And it looks problematic. I'm affirming I am prosperous, and everything in my life that doesn't line up with that is now coming to meet me. And it's like, well, this was a mistake, right? But what happens when first force and second force come together? They create third force. And third force is the synergy of both those energies taking us to higher ground. So every time we affirm or change or move in a new direction, there is going to be a level of resistance to that, but that resistance actually is the thing that we need to move us to higher ground. And this principle is so important because sometimes we get scared when we feel the resistance, but we actually need the resistance to move to higher ground. In Unity, a long time ago, it was called chemicalization. And the concept of chemicalization was that as we're affirming anything that's unlike it is coming up to be healed. How many of you ever had a muddy bucket? Right? And you put the hose in the muddy bucket and the little silt that's been on the bottom, that the moment you put the hose in the bucket and turn the water on, all that silt is kicked up. Now, it's one thing if it's a muddy bucket, it's another thing if it feels like it's your life. And sometimes when that silt gets kicked up, we want to turn the water off and pat down the silt and say, I can live with that much mud in my life. But what we really have to do is just to keep the water flowing. And if we keep the water flowing, in fact, if we turn the water up even higher, what happens to all the silt at the bottom of the bucket? It just washes out. And that's a demonstration for your soul. That wherever you believed in lack and limitation, wherever you've been afraid, wherever you've been insecure, as we claim a higher level of good in our life, that silt comes up. But it's not coming up to punish us. It's not coming up to take us out. It's coming up to be released. And you have the power of God within you to release every issue. The third principle, and since I'm going very long, it's going to be the last one, and I'll catch you up next week. The third principle is called the growth mindset. And the growth mindset says that I don't have to know everything now, that I can learn and grow. The growth mindset says it's a belief that one's ability and intelligence can be developed and improved through effort, learning, and persistence, meaning that challenges as seen as an opportunity to actually overcome the obstacles in our life. A fixed mindset says that I should already know, and if I don't know, I can't learn. Now, as we were moving across the country, we had our cars transported, and one of our cars, when it got here, the battery was dead, and when we jumped the battery and got it running, the radio wasn't working. Now, Ask me how much I know about car radio systems. Right now, how my car talks to my phone, that talks to my wife, and how she knows all this stuff, I don't know. Right? But YouTube is amazing. And I just typed in the make of my car, radio doesn't work, what are the options? And the first video that pops up says, oh, you've got a fuse, and this is where it is, and this is how you change it. I said, what do I got to lose? It's a fuse. So I followed the little directions. I popped it out. I took it out. It looked good to me. I took it to the auto parts store, and he says, 80 cents for a new one. 80 cents. 80 cents. And I said, is it really bad? He gets his little flashlight. He looks at it. Said, yeah, see that part there? That's supposed to be connected. And I said, will you help me put this part back in? He goes, oh, sure. Here, that's all you have to do. Bum, bum, bum. He said, now you just put that back. And guess what? Turn the key. Bingo. Like, what I want you to see is that you don't have to know anything more than you know. Everything in the universe is teachable. Everything in the universe is learnable. That we actually are worried that we don't know, and we're supposed to not know. Because if we knew everything already, we wouldn't even be here. We would have bypassed this whole experience. Right? But we came to learn, to grow, to change. And so these three principles, prayer, Newton's third law, and the growth mindset are all you're going to get today. I ran long. Sometimes it happens. So I believe that these three principles are enough homework for this week. Can I get an amen? So I want you to pick which one are you going to use. Pick. Are you going to be in a growth mindset? Are you going to practice affirming, knowing that when obstacles and challenges come up, that you're going to continue to affirm and overcome even when the resistance shows up? Or are you going to practice prayer? A deep level of prayer that you focus just on God. That this week, over and over again, no matter what the issue, no matter what the need, no matter what the concern may be, you're just going to pray about it. You're going to focus on God. I am living my best life. Together? I am living my best life. One more time. I am living my best life. Let's take it into prayer. I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God today. That today we are one with the one. And I want you to be bold and courageous. And I want you to claim more good than you've ever known before, to claim the infinite, to claim possibilities that are greater. And know that today, as you claim these things, as you put your focus on God, stuff will come up. But it's not greater than God. It's definitely not greater than the power of God in you. So over and over again, we put the focus on God, and we are set free. And so it is. Amen. God bless you all. Have a great week. Thanks for being here today.